Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma crew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. If you're listening to this episode, I'm guessing you already know that healing doesn't just happen in the mind. It lives in the body too. And today's guest gets that on a cellular level. Dr. Marybeth Weinstock is a board-certified dance movement therapist who's been helping people find healing through movement for over 50 years. She studied under legendary pioneer Anna Halprin, earned a PhD exploring women dancers in midlife, and has worked everywhere from psych hospitals to private practice. Her work blends dance movement therapy, internal family systems, and deep body-based wisdom. And trust me, this is not about learning choreography. It's all about healing mind, body, and spirit. She is here today to demystify what dance movement therapy really is, how it helps access parts of us we can't reach with words alone, and how reconnecting with our bodies can lead to real, lasting transformation. It's time to rip off the bandage and dive in. We are welcoming Dr. Marybeth Weinstock to the show today. Hi.
Hello.
So happy to have you here. Your work is so unique and it's a powerful lens into healing that I hadn't thought about. So I'm super excited to learn more about dance movement therapy. So can you explain, let's just start with what dance movement therapy is for people who haven't heard of it.
Sure. I'll read a definition in a moment, but dance movement therapy is like all the other creative arts therapies, like art therapy, music therapy, drama therapy. It's based on the healing aspects of the art. So usually the people who are creative arts therapists have been prominent in some way, that the art has been prominent in their life. Either they've been practicing professionally or in some way they've been teaching. So the art form has been very much a part of their life and they've benefited from it. And understand the therapeutic aspects of it just by how it's benefited their own life. So I'm going to read the definition. This is from the American Dance Therapy Association. Dance movement therapy is defined by the American Dance Therapy Association as the psychotherapeutic use of movement to promote emotional, social, cognitive, and physical integration of the individual for the purpose of improving health and well-being. It emerged as a field in the 1940s as early innovators, many of whom were accomplished dancers, began to realize the benefit of using dance and movement as a form of psychotherapy. It is a holistic approach to healing based on the empirically supported assertion that mind, body, and spirit are inseparable and interconnected. Changes in the body reflect changes in the mind, and vice versa. Dance movement therapy as an embodied, movement-based approach is often difficult to describe, as you'll be hearing that from me today as well, as it is necessary to actively engage in the process to get a true sense of what it is, which is true of all art forms. And dance is one of the most ephemeral because it's in the moment. And there are films, of course, but experiencing dance, it's not the same as looking at a painting or listening to a CD over and over again of your favorite music. Dance is different in that way.
Yeah, I love that science is backing up that mind, body, spirit connection.
Yes.
And I think that the medical field is starting to come around more and more to realize that. And I'm hoping that to follow will be insurance companies because they just don't cover any of these kinds of modalities.
It's very different on the East Coast.
Mm.
It's very well known and accepted. It's in all the psychiatric hospitals. And it's very embraced. It just out here, I was shocked when I moved out here to find that it's not as well known. There, authentic movement is very embraced out here, but that's mostly done in individual therapy. It's not done in the same way that the way I've done dance movement therapy in psychiatric hospitals and elsewhere is done. And people get licensed in creative arts therapies elsewhere. I I don't not sure what the problem is. You would
Yeah,
think that it's so progressive out here and that it would
I
be
know.
way more embraced. I don't understand it, but on
Yeah,
this coast, it's very embraced.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, how did you discover the healing power of movement and what led you to become a dance movement therapist?
Well, the healing power of movement. I've been dancing since I was a child. I've been performing since I was a child. I've been in the creative arts since I was a child. Excuse me, I was just born with this. Um, and it was always so healing to me that there's this song in a chorus line, everything is beautiful at the ballet. I'm
Mm,
tearing up just saying it. And I related to the message of that so much that no matter what's going on in your life, if there's trouble at home, going to dance class is just, it's so beautiful and you get to immerse yourself in the beauty of that. Um, so there was that throughout my life. And then when I was in undergrad school, I went to Goucher College outside of Baltimore, and they had so much dance there, and it was so great to realize that I could um, d delve into it again, like really dive into it. And my dance professor was a dance historian, and she showed us these glorious films twice a week. Excuse me, we would go to the auditorium and watch gorgeous choreography and historical dance, and so much. We just learned so much about the history of dance. And then one day she showed films about dance movement therapy. I had never heard of it. And I saw a film about Janet Adler called Looking for Me, where she was working with, this is way back in the 70s. This is 50 years
mm,
ago. And she was dancing with a child with autism, a toddler who was did stimulating movements and would just rock and rock and rock and rock. And she just joined the child in the rocking and the movement.
mm.
And so this beautiful bond formed. And I was so blown away that the parents hired her to help with the child, just to see if through movement, since she moved so much, could the movement help to bring her into relationship? And it did, because she was so
Yeah.
mirrored and attuned to. And then the film after that was about my beloved dance teacher, Anna Halprin. I hadn't heard of her yet, but she was doing amazing dance in San Francisco Dance Theater Workshop. And she had a group of white folks and a group of black folks. And it was all about social justice and about exploring how they moved and how through the movement could they express their questions about what was coming up in the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
questions about how do we listen to one another, questions about how to embrace the black the folks who were experiencing so much. It was so fraught at that time, not that it isn't now, but it was so fraught at that time. And being able to communicate through dance and movement, it's an extraordinary film. And I was just moved to the core. And I thought, oh my God, I could do all of these things that I want to do through this. I had been looking at becoming a theater major, a dance major, education major, sociology major, psychology major. And here it was all together in one form that
Mm,
I could apply social justice principles. I could share what the healing that I had derived and loved so much from my beloved dance form, and have this universal language, and at the same time acknowledging all the different forms of movement from all the different cultures, and that was just very exciting to me. And then my I went and told my dance teacher, my psychology teachers, and they were like, okay, let's work on it. They were very
Mm.
responsive, and they found me one of the mothers of dance movement therapy in a psychiatric hospital very near my college, and I started going to internships with her. So I was just so blessed, so lucky,
Yeah. Yeah.
right from the get-go, and it was just right livelihood.
Right. So
Yeah.
those two groups, were those choreographed dances or were those just kind of
The group,
dances
even with
that,
Anna Halprin,
yeah, the white group and the black group that you were
they were
saying,
very
it was
spontaneous.
spontaneous.
Anna does have had, I'm sorry, she passed away. She had this way of moving that invokes creativity. And she's well known for it. It's a whole methodology that she does to become very attuned to your own body and how it moves. Like just, if I move my hand this way, where does the movement come from? Does it come from the digits? Does it come from the joints? Does it come from my wrist? Does it come from the palm? And exploring that very deeply through your entire body. So you become so attuned to your movement, and it can change every moment. It can change from day to day. It can change with mood. It can change with how you're feeling physically. So it's this exquisite way of working with the body, which evokes creativity. And she just had this really magical way of saying, she would just say one sentence as a prompt, and everyone would just move. I asked her about it once, and because I had an extraordinary experience of it once. She just said one sentence to me, and it completely shifted how I was feeling and how I
Mm.
was moving. I asked her about it, and she said, "I just trust people," which is
Wow.
a really amazing thing to
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So what makes dance movement therapy distinct from other approaches like talk therapy or a somatic practice?
It's from being based on the art form. It's informed by aesthetics, kinesthetics. It's informed by being deeply attuned to expression, personal expression. I would imagine that in other somatic forms there's crossover, but if it doesn't emerge from having been an artist and having lived the experience of the art form in the body, then it's not going to have quite the same um, flavor.
Yeah. I imagine that people that don't want to relive a traumatic event or can't talk about it, that this would be very helpful.
It can be. It can also be terrifying because all of the experience is held in your body.
Hmm.
And when you move, you feel all of that.
Yeah.
Right? So people will become a talking head, especially with trauma, because being in the body means you're going to feel things that you're trying not to feel. And yet we get this from the animals. I'm sure you've heard this from other people who've talked about trauma with you, but it's actually it's very expedient that, but that we play dead, we freeze when we're feeling things that are too overwhelming, that take over our whole being, that take over our sense of well-being, our sense of functioning. And so there's a shutdown that happens. And but the problem with that is that then we're not in the vagal system, and we can't regulate. So we do have to get back into the body again. So with dance movement therapists are very trained in how to approach that with great sensitivity, with great attunement, with subtlety, with invitation. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about when you were talking about the animals, how, when they say that an animal almost gets attacked by a lion and they
Yeah.
get away, how they
Mhm.
start shaking and they move their
Yes.
body to release
Yeah.
that trauma that just happened.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
No, we do. Oh, did you ever have surgery?
Oh, yes.
So when I've come out of surgery, when I was in the recovery room, the whole thing was shaking. And when I
Wow.
found out about trauma, and about the shaking and that that's
Yeah.
about release, I was like, oh my God, that's what was happening. Because I would ask, why, why am I shaking like this? And they would say, oh, it's just so cold in here. But that's not what was going on. My body was processing the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah,
you're more in tune with your body. And I think so a lot of people aren't at that level like you are, you know? And so I
unfortunately,
don't think that we are taught that it's okay to deal with it in the moment, like right after,
I would say
or
that's in dominant culture.
yeah.
That's not in all cultures. That's
Yeah.
in our dominant culture here in the
Hmm.
United States.
Yeah.
It comes from this puritanical, very strange way. I don't know why they felt it was important to not be in touch with your body and not dance and not have pleasure and not
Hmm.
acknowledge, just having a human body. I
Yeah.
don't know what that was about, but that's about dominant culture. There are many cultures that are very in touch with how do I feel and
Yeah.
just, it's kind of in the United States, sometimes it has to be underground because there's this dominant culture that tells us that's not okay.
Hmm.
But I think it's alive and well elsewhere.
Yeah. And I've been the last couple weeks talking to other healers and just thinking and discussing with them how great it would be if we started with children, teaching them that these things are okay.
Hmm.
Do you work with kids?
I have. It was my first specialty. Yeah, I don't now. I
Mhm.
love kids and I love being around them, but I mostly work with adults now. And especially because I'm aging, a lot of people who come to me are aging and they want to be with a therapist who understands aging and the aging body and what that's like.
Mm,
But I
that's
do also
important.
work with young people, but not with kids anymore. I
Yeah.
love working with them.
Well, that's super important working, with older people because we lose a lot of our movement as we get older and the
We do.
flexibility and all of
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
it's sad. I mean, there's a grieving process, I think, that goes along with that too, is as we watch ourselves, oh, I used to be able to do that and I can't do that anymore.
That's what I wrote my dissertation about. Exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah. My doctoral dissertation in clinical psychology, I wrote about women dancers in midlife coping with the transition.
Mm,
Yeah. So I interviewed
wow.
women dancers in midlife who still considered themselves in the profession and exactly what you just talked about, the grief and
Yeah.
what we experience.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Can you walk us through what a typical dance movement therapy session looks like?
When I looked at that question, I giggled a little bit because I don't think there is a typical dance therapy session, especially now that I'm in private practice. When I was working in hospitals and facilities, I'm working with groups. I did have more of like a sort of an outline of the basic structure. It's kind of like there are different forms of dance movement therapy, but the one that I was raised in, it's Chase method from Marion Chase, is based on a dance class where you warm up, and then there's sort of the meat of the class where you develop themes and you build on movements, and then there's a warming down, a cooling down period. So I would I would say I still am influenced by that. And still at this point I've been doing this for so long. I had my first internship over 50 years ago. And so it I felt like this when I first started working with my mentor, Arlene Stark, that it was like a second language to her, or like a first language to her, probably not even second, that movement was she was so fluent in responding to people and what they needed that right in the moment, she would have a way of responding that it was so attuned to what they needed and so authentic.
Mm,
So that's where I try to be at this point, that different people are going to have different needs and also different willingness. Some people are
yeah.
terrified. They come to me, but they're terrified of moving.
Hmm.
They're terrified of their bodies. They've had trauma in their body. They've had all kinds of trauma, and they're just so disconnected. So it depends on where they're at. And I've actually had professional dancers come to me and be terrified
Mm,
of doing dance movement therapy, of just peeling away the technique and the beautiful presentation and just being in raw movement.
mhm.
So it totally depends on what's in front of me.
So do you start with an intake of some sort
Oh yeah,
or
absolutely. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I always do.
okay.
I have to.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't want to do that, and that's fine. They just want to start by moving. And so my intake is by watching them move, by mirroring and notice what their movement skills are like, what their movement tendencies are like, how they move in space, how they move in relationship to another human being, what kinds of movements they are their preferences.
So are you dancing with them?
It depends. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes someone just wants to be on their own. I have a very cute dog who often comes with me. Sometimes they're moving with her, but sometimes they just really want to be witnessed, or
Mm,
they want me to turn away and they want to do what they're
mm,
doing without someone watching because there's self-consciousness, and that's
mhm,
fine.
mhm,
Sometimes I'm right there mirroring with them. Sometimes I'm standing nearby and offering props, offering, moving things around in the room. I have a lot of stuff that I work with in my room. It's filled with all kinds of props and stuff that we can work with and move with and throw and kick,
mm,
um, and just be graceful with, create boundaries with. I work
mm.
an awful lot with boundaries,
Wow.
just creating a space where they're separated from me. That's like, this is the wall I have between me and the world, or this is the wall I have between me and my feelings. This is the wall I experience when I'm confronted with what I don't want to be confronted with.
Mm.
So we'll build physical walls and move with the walls. And sometimes I'm part of that, and sometimes I'm witnessing that.
Yeah, I think for me, when you were talking about that, what would come up for me, I think, is tearing down the walls.
Yes, but we have to get to that. First, we
Yeah,
have to make whatever the wall is, and then, yeah, absolutely, tearing down the walls. That is so fun.
and that would be super powerful too.
Yes, really, and naming what the things are
Hmm.
that are being torn and
Yeah,
disposed of and kicked, and
yeah.
yeah,
How do you pick music? Do you ask them or do you
I
just start with
do.
something?
I do. I absolutely ask them. Sometimes there's a desire for silence, which I have to be with. A lot of people who work with authentic movement have no music
Mm,
because it just emerges from the
yeah,
rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of what's inside the person. But I have a pretty eclectic collection of music, and I will suggest things, and I often will suggest things that don't have words, that's more like a atmospheric,
hmm,
uh that fits an atmosphere that fits the mood.
yeah, hmm,
Um, but it depends. Sometimes if someone's really angry, there might be, like African chants with intense drum can be very evocative and very powerful and evoke stomping and punching and hitting and throwing and bring out something that needs to be brought out. It might be that something more lyrical to
mm,
evoke grief that needs to be expressed, or just a desire to express some kind of grace and happiness. Yeah, so it'll absolutely depend on that. Yeah,
yeah,
and I was raised with that early on. My mentor early on was very gifted at that and taught me a lot about that. We worked with music a lot. We had
yeah,
great freedom. It was in the early 70s, and we were in this giant psychiatric hospital. Things were so different then. Sometimes
mm,
people were lifers in there, and
right.
people had lobotomies. This was so way back when, and the medications were so intense that there would be all these side effects. And we were in the basement. They left us alone. There was an art therapist, and a music therapist and us. Was there a drama therapist? I don't think so. And sometimes we would all collaborate. We would do these wild things downstairs. We put on whole albums and just, have wild movement going on. It was fabulous. Nobody asked us any
Sounds
questions.
fun.
Yeah, it was great.
No phones, nobody's filming you. Just do your thing.
Exactly. Yes.
So something super interesting for me is you integrate internal family systems into your work.
Mhm.
Because I'm a somatic therapist as well. So that's interesting. How do those two methodologies complement each other in your sessions?
Well, internal family systems is so embodied. I was lucky enough to get trained by Dick. He was part of the training staff at a facility, an eating disorders facility that I worked
Mhm.
in here in Pacific Grove. And we talked a lot about that. I would bring it up with him, and he has a lot of movement folks that he works with. He's very pro movement, pro working with the body. He's so open that way. And one of the first questions you ask in IFS is how do you how are you aware of that part, or how are you aware of self? And that's always embodied.
Mm,
I mean, sometimes it's in the head, but that's still in the body, right? Your brain is an organ in your body. So it's very embodied, and people will have these vivid descriptions that often I hear the same thing over and over again about parts where there's trauma and depression, that it'll be dark and murky and almost have this texture of mud or tar. And then as we continue to describe it, it just gives itself to movement, and it's often held in the gut. So we're talking about vagus issues. So what happens when we focus on that, and where does it move to, and do the colors change, and just acknowledging it, and attuning to that, how it feels, and are you next to it, are you far away from it, using spatial cues, using just the movement experience in that moment can be so powerful.
yeah.
And parts do live in body parts,
Hmm.
right? So we also
Yeah.
acknowledge that. And so how does that make you move or not move? How
Mm,
does it make that part of your body feel? Can we, let's see, how does it impact your breath or your heartbeat? How does it impact your spine? It's all related. And this also goes back to, excuse me, Anna Halprin, who, like, if we moved a hand, well, where do you feel that in your tailbone? Or do you
mm,
feel that in your toes somehow? How is every movement connected to every other movement?
yeah.
It's the same. So all of this comes together through using the parts work, dance movement therapy, Anna's work, that they all intermingle and inform one another and become space for whatever you're feeling, whatever you're seeing is welcome here.
Hmm.
Let's welcome it. Let's just see what that is. Let's
Yeah.
explore it. Let's have compassionate curiosity. One of
Hmm.
my favorite concepts of
Two of
IFS,
my favorite words.
right? Just always being in compassionate curiosity, especially toward your body, toward where you're holding things, toward the walls. They're there for a really good reason. How do we have compassionate curiosity about why is it there? How is it feeling? How can we approach it? How can we listen deeply to it?
So as someone's dancing, are you coaching them or asking them, like, where are you feeling that in your body right now as they're doing that? Or is that something that you do afterwards and kind of talk about what was going on for them
I'm mostly likely going to give prompts and ask questions. And then
during the dancing?
before,
Okay.
like especially if we're in parts,
Mm-hmm.
if we're blended, then I might be giving cues there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were asking about IFS, and it's a little bit different when we're coming from the IFS approach, that we're going to
Okay.
come in a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry, ask the question again.
So when they're dancing, are you giving them prompts during their dancing, like asking them, well, what are you feeling in your body right now?
If they
Or do you
want
wait
that,
until afterwards and then kind of discuss like what was going on here? Like,
that's going to be client by client.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
group by group.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, whatever. If they're deeply into the process, I don't want to interrupt it.
Right.
Or I
Yeah.
might say, anybody need a prompt if it's a group or if it's my client, do you need me to speak to you right now? They're going to be really clear.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt what's unfolding.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you also work with the broader field of the creative arts therapies. Can you explain how that differs from expressive art therapies and why the distinction is important?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the creative arts, as I said earlier, dance, movement therapy, art therapy, music therapy, drama therapy. I believe there's poetry therapy, and there might be more that I'm not naming. Um, so it's based so the person has been practicing their preferred art form, and then the therapeutic methodology is based on that art form. Expressive arts therapists are trained in most in all of the arts, and then they get to specialize in one or
Mm,
two. So it's a different it's a broader base with expressive arts therapies.
yeah.
Creative arts therapies are based on that creative art.
Okay.
Not that I mean, I also work with art and music, of course. I
Yeah.
love it, and there's also going to sometimes be a dramatic, more sort of theatrical unfolding. But the main gist of what we do is the movement,
Yeah.
the dance. Yeah.
You may have answered this a little bit when we were talking about IFS, but how does movement allow access to parts of ourselves like trauma or memory or creativity that might not emerge through words?
We have so many, Sigmund Freud talked about this, that we have so many defenses in our words. I wish I remembered that was such a beautiful quote from him, that something about how the person is feeling, how it pours out of every gesture,
Mm,
that it's not going to necessarily come through the words. And that's why it's one of the reasons that it works really well in psychiatric facilities and in places where people at higher levels of care. Sometimes there's a lot of shutdown, a lot of fear, and words might have been used as weapons against them.
yeah.
They might just not have access to syntax.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so coming in through this more raw form of expression can just feel safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're just breathing together, if we're putting on music and just kind of, bouncing or moving a foot, that might feel a whole lot safer than me asking a question like, how are you feeling?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, just knowing that I don't have to start and get up and move my entire body and dance. Like I can
Mhm.
just sit
Yes.
there, like you were saying, and open and close my hand for, or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
bounce my knee to the music or whatever. It's not that I
Yeah.
have to get up and, really express myself right away. So
Mhm.
I think for a lot of people,
Mhm.
that's important to know.
Yeah. And also to be invited to just sit there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then maybe by the third time, hey, I
Mm,
want to do this.
yeah.
I had a
That's
client
awesome.
who resisted for years. And this is when in a a psychiatric hospital that I worked in, was terrified because I was the movement person and the eating disorders person. And then one day, by mistake, opened the door and everyone was lying on the floor with their knees up on the chairs. I used to call it milk and cookies group because it was like in kindergarten when you get out the mats and after having milk and cookies and just lying down and taking a nap. It
Yeah.
was like that. People were snoring and there was beautiful music on. And he came and he went, "This is what you do in here?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh my God." And from then on, he was a huge fan.
That's too funny. Those were my favorite days in my dance class back in high school. And my teacher was like, we're gonna just lay down and listen to some nice music and kind of meditate. I was like, oh, I love these
Thank
days. They're
you.
my favorite.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the challenges of people that feel resistance. What kind of resistance do you usually see in your clients?
Well, what I just described, if someone's been, I work a lot with eating disorders, a lot of dance
Mm.
movement therapists do, because we've been there, done that, right? Excuse me. So I danced in New York. Everybody had eating disorders,
Yeah.
right? And they were encouraged. And in undergrad school, they were encouraged. We would be,
Wow.
uh, you gain weight on the camera, you gain weight on stage. It just, awful stuff. And so I recovered. And so that can be an obstacle, right? Just working with someone whose relationship with their body is so fraught that they're not able to eat food in a way that's nourishing.
Yeah.
You're either eating it or not eating it or disposing of it in different ways, and how to make it safe again just to be in the body. And there are always really good reasons for that. It's
Yeah.
often genetic, it's often, it's the nature nurture thing, but it's always due to, I would say 95% of the time it's due to trauma.
Hmm.
And so how to understand that it's not your body's fault. It's not
Yeah.
food's fault. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Something horrible happened to you. Let's see if we can reclaim our body, reclaim our power, reclaim our feelings, be back in self again.
Yeah. And those dancers, I'm sure that in that trauma, they might have almost not wanted to dance anymore or move,
Or
you
move too
know?
much.
Yeah.
Moving
Yeah.
too much can also be a way of avoiding.
Mm,
Being hyper focused on body image,
yeah.
body dysmorphia, being hyper focused on uh, technique can be a great way to avoid.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cultural influences and social justice issues, and that how that shaped the field of dance movement therapy, and how do you personally engage with those complexities in your own practice?
So, as I said earlier, I was very influenced by Anna Halprin, who uh, used it in her work in the world. In fact, I wish she were still alive. She would be so heartbroken. She went to Israel a lot and worked with Israeli women and Palestinian women and would do these huge public dances
Mm-hmm.
of coming together. Um, it was so close to her heart. And so the American Dance Therapy Association, there was a moment when the George Floyd incident happened that things just blew up nationally, culturally. And there was a reckoning moment of how does white culture usurp the goodies from other cultures, the art, the music, the dance, and claim it as their own. And there was an awful lot of that in dance movement therapy. And so there were voices that weren't listened to, and they needed to be deeply listened to. And I happened to be on the board of the American Dance Therapy Association at that time, and it felt auspicious to me. I was really glad that I was there at that time. It was difficult and painful and
Mm-hmm.
so necessary, so necessary. And so things started to change, and other voices started being heard culturally, in terms of gender, in terms of sexual orientation, able able-bodied, and being ableist, um, and just being able to embrace and bring that in and acknowledge that what we call dance movement therapy isn't unique, that dance has been used as a healing tool. It's been embraced as a healing tool for millennia.
Yeah.
And so, what are we claiming as ours, as a profession that is global, and and acknowledge all the influences, and not uh, steal. I
Mm,
mean, really, this isn't it. I don't know if you saw the movie Sinners, but oh God, it's so important. It's such an important film. It's such a masterpiece because that's what it's about. It's about vampiring onto Black culture and claiming it as your own. So it's so much about that. There's a scene in it that's just so brilliant about all of the arts and through the centuries and in the different countries. And so hip hop together with African dance, together with the dance of the blues and how they all came together. And just really being able to acknowledge that in this form of therapy, to be attuned to who is in the room and what am I bringing to the room? How are we bringing that together? And being really clear about what's different culturally. What do I need to be more sensitive to? What do I not know that I
hmm.
need to be educated about, that I'm
Yeah.
responsible to educate myself about? And just constantly being on that tuning fork, having a tuning fork around that, and having an
Yeah.
open heart and humility.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've mentioned that your work is a methodology rather than a modality. Could you share more about what that distinction is and why it's important in your field?
Yeah, sure. That I don't remember who first brought this up with me, but calling it a modality rather than a methodology can be a put down in the language. Methodology implies scientific method. It implies an accumulation of evidence, which I'm fine with case studies. I'm not thrilled that evidence-based methodologies are just about scientific method because I think case studies are also
Hmm.
scientific method.
Hmm. Hmm.
So methodology implies that and that there's a scholarship, scholarship, application of deep study to what's being presented. Modality doesn't, it's more like it's lighter weight. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily imply deep scholarship. And we've had to fight about that a lot, a
Like
lot.
within
In
what?
in in California particularly, I don't want to alienate, but there's um a high level scholarly institution here that looks down its nose at dance movement therapy and at other
Mm.
arts therapies that's inappropriate. And it's got in the way of licensure and
Oh, wow.
kinds of things. And there's a lot of that on the West Coast it's inappropriate.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
not based on fact. It's
Right.
based on an attitude. And I don't get it because it's so
Yeah.
progressive out here. It doesn't,
I know
you think of the East Coast as being way
in a
more
lot of ways, but in
sort
some
of
ways,
highfalutin and
yeah. Oh, I know.
yes,
Trust
it
me.
makes zero sense to me. But yeah, I was really shocked when I moved out here and I had to explain to people what dance movement therapy was.
Yeah. I had
Yeah,
not heard of it.
but authentic movement has been very embraced.
And I hadn't heard of that either.
Oh, you haven't?
No,
Yeah.
either one.
That's been around for many, many years, and there have been great practitioners of authentic movement out here in California who are very gifted healers.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
Can
Joan
you?
Totaro, have you heard the name Joan Totaro?
Mm-mm.
She's written textbooks about Jungian. A lot of dance movement therapists out here are very connected with Jungian psychotherapy and moving in that realm. And
Okay.
authentic movement works really well with that uh,
Uh-huh.
orientation. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Can you share a story where you witnessed a powerful transformation using dance movement therapy?
Oh God, I have so many. Um, I can say that lately in my practice, it's been extraordinary to witness clients. I'm thinking of one in particular right now who we were working with her body and how she holds particular traumas in parts
Mm,
of her body. She's really aware of that. And she was experiencing this incredible flow. I believe it was on the right side of her body, just this flow from her brain through all of
mm,
her joints, through her hip joint was where a lot of the frozen feeling and pain it was what she experienced. It was
mhm,
just flowing through, and she had to lie down on the floor to just allow it to flow
mhm.
through. And there was some of the shaking that you were talking about earlier. That was a really profound moment. And I have
Yeah.
seen other moments like that where we're just there witnessing that
Mhm.
because there's been enough attunement with the body that I think that's when neuroplasticity is happening, actually.
Yeah.
I think, like the neural
Yeah.
reprogramming, I think it's that, which I think dance movement therapists have been aware of. We didn't have the language for it. I mean,
Mhm.
Bessel van der Kolk wrote his books and did a lot, his work around that and gave us a lot of language for it. But we were witnessing that before there was um, scientific language for it, like brain language for it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we've been experiencing that. And I would also say that yeah, I have so many memories in my life, but recently I said something about my adorable dog and that sometimes she's in the room with us. And I had a client recently who was feeling such profound grief. She she needed to just move, and we found the perfect music that she wanted to move to. And I sat, and she started on the floor, just huddled up in a ball, crying. And my dog was licking her tears and licking her hair. And so they did this dance together and she unfolded out of it. It was just, she just
Mm,
needed the space and the safety to just have the grief and allow the tears to pour and to shake and to grasp and to hide and huddle, to
mm,
hold herself and be held that way. And she gently emerged I didn't give her any prompts through any of it. She finally emerged and her movement remained kind of like almost like a tree branch with
mm,
the grief was in her fingers. You could see it and emerged. And then the movement got a little bit calmer and the tears became less and the movement became more fluid. And then it
mm.
just came to a still point at the end of the music. And it was just so simple and so poignant.
Yeah.
And there was there were no words to be said.
Yeah.
There were
Mm,
no words to be said. It was just there was such a perfect expression with a beginning and a middle and an end.
mhm.
And it was just what she needed. She knew what she needed. And we've worked together long enough that she was able to create it
Yeah.
on her own.
I'm assuming that this modality is something that has to be done in person.
Well, when during the pandemic, we had to be really creative about that. So no,
Okay.
I prefer in person,
Yeah.
but no, we became really creative about how to keep the movement going. I was working with my individual clients, but also I was working with an eating disorders facility, the Lotus Collaborative, and we did everything online. We did nothing in person because we couldn't.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at what emerged. It was
Wow.
so much fun. There was this really fun thing we would do, just have your hair showing in the camera. Like what can you do with a finger? So we would explore. That was so much fun. And then going really far away from the camera, coming way too close to the camera, going off camera,
Funny.
going side to side, up
Yeah,
and down, exploring space that way. So we could be playful in some ways that people wouldn't do in my office,
right.
which I found really fascinating. So that was, yeah, and we would do games like I'm going to throw this to you. So
Catch.
it was like the Brady Bunch squares. And just like
Yeah.
I have I don't know, I'm going to throw this helicopter over to you. You gotta catch the helicopter and make it into a frisbee, and I'm throwing it to so and so, and they would catch it and
Hmm.
respond, and you can
Yeah.
catch it and fall, and people can mirror each other, and it was amazing that there was a lot of magic that happened, and so I do have clients that I see on Zoom, and we continue to do that.
So if somebody is looking for a competent therapist in their area, is there a database somewhere or how
There
would
is
they?
the American Dance Therapy Association
Okay.
website has state by state and also regional listings for dance movement therapists.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in closing, if there's someone who feels curious or even hesitant about using movement as a therapy in a therapeutic setting, what's a gentle first step that they can take towards starting to reconnect with their bodies?
Oh, I would say it depends on the person, but yoga, just restorative yoga, just kind of lying there is a beautiful way to reintroduce it. Walking, connecting with the breath,
Mm,
doing any kind of relaxation, unless sometimes that can be scary. It can be that it needs to be more in nature, taking a hike in nature, going by the water, and also reaching out to a dance movement therapist, I would say, or a somatic therapist, and asking questions, going onto the websites. There's a lot of information. Like if it's like, okay, I don't want anyone to look at me, but I want to find out what this is. So reading about it can be very calming, and finding out that
mm.
this isn't, someone's not going to make me learn Swan Lake and perform in front of thousands
Exactly.
of people. That's
Right.
not what this is. This is a very personal,
Mm,
gentle, person-centered approach.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Did that answer
So
your question?
yes, it
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So tell everybody, well, you're in Pacific Grove in California.
I
Yeah.
live in Pacific Grove, California. My office is in Monterey.
Okay.
Yeah, and I love my office. It's a wonderful, magical office. I have a lot of space in this funky old building that I used to wonder what it was. And it's just, it's this spacious room with high ceilings, and yeah, right in Monterey, near,
So are
the
you
bay.
on? Yeah, I know. It's beautiful. How can people find you?
Uh my email is mbdancer@sbcglobal.net. I have a really old email, but so many people have had it for so
Still
many
works.
years. Yes, they can call me 561-254-4963. My website is creativetransition.net, and there's a lot of information and pictures. It needs a rehaul. I have the old fashioned kind. I don't have the one page website that everybody has now. So I need to redo it, but there's a lot of information about what I do on my website as well.
Awesome. So we'll have all those links in the show notes if anyone needs or wants to get in touch with you. Thanks so much for coming on today and talking about this. Like I said, I had been involved in dance for, a long time as a young person, but never really thought of the mental body, mind, spirit, connection that and the healing, the unique healing that it can that comes along with the movement of the body. So thank you so much for educating us on that today.
You're so welcome.
Wow, what a beautiful embodied conversation. I hope that you felt how gently and powerfully Dr. Mary Beth reminded us that the body doesn't just hold trauma, it holds wisdom too. If you've been feeling disconnected from your body or stuck in talk therapy, this might just be the door you've been looking for. As always, you can find Marybeth's links in the show notes. If you or someone you know works in a healing space that's a little different, something the world needs to hear about, consider being a guest on the podcast. Just email me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. And if you're curious about somatic mindful guided imagery, the work I do that helps people access the subconscious through the body, I offer a free 20-minute consultation to see if it's a good fit for you. If you're carrying pain that talk therapy hasn't touched, SMGI might be the key to unlocking what's been buried. Find out more at my website, somatichealingjourneys.com. Thanks for listening today, Karma Crew. And as always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.